Hello everybody. Welcome to the 13th edition of the iGaming Africa webinars. Today, we are going to be talking about an exciting topic on the best practices for engaging a gaming consultant in Africa. And on this session, I'm joined by Nitesh, Martin, and Cameron, who are experts in the industry and consultants in the field. So allow me to give them a minute each to introduce themselves.
Morning, everybody. It's great being here. Thank you for this opportunity, Jeremiah. Some of you may know some of our backgrounds, but just by way of introduction, I've been in the iGaming space since 2002. I sat as the head of marketing and as an exec member of one of the biggest online casinos groups in the world up until 2012. At which point I set up my own consultancy. I ran that consultancy with multiple clients from between 2012 and 2019, at which point I joined Sun International on their exec and running their sports betting platform up until 2022. Since 2022 to date, I've been once again consulting in the private space, mainly in Africa, with a few internationals that are looking to make inroads into South Africa. Martin?
Awesome.
Martin?
Hi, my name is Martin Sack. I've also been in the iGaming industry for a really, really long time, probably about as long as Nitesh has. My background has extended through the online casino space into the online sports space and the online poker space. I have built brands, I've run brands, I've managed brands around the world, and I have consulted to brands in a number of jurisdictions. My last couple of engagements have been with land-based casino groups that have moved to online, and I'm currently engaged in consulting in a couple of African jurisdictions. I've worked a lot in South Africa recently, a bit in Cameroon. I'm doing some stuff in Angola, and I've spent obviously some time in Nigeria.
Great stuff. So just like here with Nitesh and Martin, I've spent the last 24 years plus in iGaming, and the last 7 years been specialized in Africa. So that's handling profit and loss management, that's integration, setting up operations, end-to-end launch of products. So that's licensing, staffing. So beyond these, I closely work with finance teams, making sure that we work with reconciliation, support the risk and fraud space, whether it's payments, different aspects of legal in Africa, because that's ever changing, as we know. And that's where I focus on, like making sure that everybody gets to make a dime in the African space.
Yeah, thank you so much, gents, for the introductions. I can see you all have a wealth of experience in the industry, especially as consultants, and that is why we invited you to be of help to the iGaming Africa community, so that you can help those who are trying to venture onto the iGaming industry in Africa, so that they can know what are some of the factors they should consider when they are choosing consultants for their project. So without wasting any time, I will ask Martin to basically tell us how you can know that how important it is for somebody to engage a consultant, or why is it important? So just paint us, give us the foundation on this topic. So you tell us why it's very, very important for a company to engage a consultant. Why shouldn't they do it by themselves, and it's important for them to engage a consultant?
Well, Jeremiah, I think it's important to engage a consultant because we have already paid the school fees. We've already made the mistakes that maybe a new operator is about to make. The reason we come to the table is we bring a specialized knowledge and experience in the iGaming space, both globally and within the African context, that help you navigate the complexities of this environment. Gaming is different from other industries, and as we know, each territory is a different territory, and to navigate this, it takes a learning. And one of the things as a consultant we bring to the table is the ability to get to the heart of those learnings quickly. We become cost effective as consultants because we help you prevent the mistakes that you could possibly make. We can help minimize the pitfalls. We can identify the pitfalls you're going to face, and we can help optimize your operations based on the broad variety of experience that we've had in the 20 or 30 different operations we've consulted to over our time. And we offer valuable strategic insight. We help you ask the right questions. And then from a final point of view, one of the things that we do and we should do as a matter of course is transfer knowledge to you and your organization. We at the end of the day are not looking in your organization looking for a job. We are looking there to add value, create impact for you, and then move on. Thank you. Can't hear you, Jeremiah.
I think I was muted. So I especially support the point on value addition, because if you're coming on board to support or help in launching a project, then you should be able to bring something new. And this is something that those people who want to launch their businesses should be looking for in consultants. And Nitesh, maybe you can now introduce us to the topic that we are discussing today, whereby we are trying to find the best practices. And I would love you to discuss to start the conversation by telling us some of the best practices for identifying the right consultant in launching a gaming business in Africa. And then you will also give the opportunity to Cameron and Martin to also shed more light on that topic. I'm also inviting all those who are watching us live on LinkedIn and YouTube to send in their questions, and then our panelists are going to, of course, give answers to them at the end of the session. And a reminder to our audience that the session is sponsored by Gaming Tech Summit Africa 2024, who are organizing a regulators gaming conference in Nairobi, Kenya, from the 4th to the 5th of June 2024. So, Nitesh, take us through.
So, Jeremiah, I think it's critical that we look at consultants with industry-specific expertise. In my experience and looking around this industry at the moment, it's such a growth industry that we tend to see a lot of people who don't necessarily have successfully launched or scaled similar businesses consulting to operations from a very generic business management background. It's also important that consultants have regional experience, that have a better understanding of local market dynamics and challenges. Those kind of dynamics and challenges we're talking about are things like regulatory understanding, where it's important and critical that consultants have this deep understanding of regulatory landscapes across different African countries. We've seen it time and time again, where international consultants have come in and just view Africa as a homogeneous grouping and don't necessarily understand the regional regulatory landscape differences between territories. And when I talk about that landscape, I'm talking about licensing, taxation, compliance, responsible gaming, issues like that really affect whether or not a business should and could be successful in a territory. The other critical aspect that I see lacking oftentimes is cultural sensitivity. It's so important to be familiar with the cultural nuances and customer behaviors in Africa to create an effective marketing and engagement strategy for your brand. In looking for a consultant, I think it's important to look at their past successes. Track record is important. This industry is big, but it's small enough for you to ask around and get some background. I have a difficulty sometimes when I send out a CV where I can't necessarily disclose some of my previous clients on a CV, but I am willing to talk about outcomes and projects. And it's important, I think, for consultants or wannabe consultants in the space to get testimonials from clients where possible. The industry connections and network that a consultant brings is also very important. One man or one woman is not going to solve all your problems in launching your business, and it's critical that you choose a well-connected consultant that can leverage their network, that can bring additional experts, resources, opportunities to your brand, that could facilitate faster problem resolution and go-to-market times. And then I think the other thing that you need to look at is somebody who's got a wide and distinctive background that can bring a level of flexibility and innovative thinking to your business. Oftentimes we see people who are quite stuck in a way of thinking or in a certain industry that just doesn't suit a dynamic business like iGaming in any of its forms, whether it's sports betting or casino. And the ability to adapt to changing marketing conditions is critical. The ability to think on your feet and to basically pivot in this ever-changing and rapidly evolving gaming industry is critical from a consultant. So I think those are the important factors that you need to look at in the person when you're considering who to bring on board.
Absolutely agree with you on that, Nitesh. It is so important to be able to pivot, but in order to do that, it requires a level of expertise, a level of experience in multiple different environments to understand what is good and bad options. We make the joke always, we've paid our school fees before we've made these mistakes already, right? For me, the actual regional expertise is important, and we'll talk about that a bit later when we talk about local consultants and consultants within territory. But I think what's really important is to be able to have a holistic view of what is best practice, what is good in various regions, and be able to adapt yourself to the local conditions, to the changing conditions of whichever territory you're in. Cam, what's your thoughts?
When you mentioned the school fees and said that we shorten that path to success, that's then knowing what your paths are. It's knowing who you can count on in your network to get that problem solved, and then how to get in touch and how to put the right people together to make it operate successful. Like you said, there's many cogs to this. There's not going to be a single solution that works or a single recipe that's going to work for every operation. The nuances are just far too great. And recognizing those nuances, knowing how they'll affect the business is number one. So you're not going to chase every single wave. You need to know which ones are important to solve, which issues are the ones to go after, and which ones you need to go to somebody else and get into them for them to solve the issue for you. So mine is probably a helicopter view of how I would then apply the solutions to problems or the challenges that you experience when launching a brand or trying to adjust a brand in Africa.
Yeah, amazing insights there. And one point that stands out is about having somebody who has a track record or a good performance when it comes to consulting, or somebody who has implemented some projects. It can be a person, of course, and it can be an agency when you're talking about consultants. So it's good for you to look at the past record. I think it's Nitesh who, if we can know how easy you can know that the consultants that you want to engage have the skills, expertise, and experience and know-how in handling projects. Cameron?
So I think the easiest way is to have that conversation, sit down and just to ping them for their insights and understanding, getting how they would approach a problem, understanding which road they will take. That'll paint a picture for you on how well they understand either the problem, the solution that they need to do, or what it will take to solve that problem. I think those interviews or those discussions are extremely important. Then when you do have those discussions, and we said, and I'm glad to see that Mark in the comments said we forget how small the industry is. I don't have all the answers. I can very quickly verify somebody's credentials by reaching out and asking around on what the experience was, what people see and feel, because that's exactly
Okay.
what.
Okay, good. And maybe you can also help us to know the role that research plays in ensuring that you are working with the right consultants, because that is exactly well connected with that point of how you can be able to identify that the consultants you are working with are the right people. And maybe Nitesh and Martin, if you have something you can add on that subject, you can please be free to do so.
So the one thing about this industry is there's absolutely no way that it can be seen as static. It is ever changing. Whether it is regulation, whether it's taxation, whether it is day-to-day operation, whatever it might be, you can be sure that something is changing somewhere. And research for me constitutes probably a third of my day, reading up, studying up, doing research on various elements, whether it's new solutions to issues that I've experienced, whatever it might be. About a third of my day is spent on research, and that allows me to stay in front of what the issues are and what we need to know. And that allows me also to ask the right questions to those who then come present themselves, say that they can solve a problem, or whether they want to partner in solution, whether it's a B2B solution. You'll be able to then understand where they are, what they are delivering.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that, Cameron. I think the fairness, in fairness, we're not doing the same thing we did 25 years ago and rinsing and repeating.
Absolutely.
As a consultant, I think even more so than an operator, because we are expected to be bringing the correct solutions to the table. If we are not up to date with what is current, or what the current status of the technology stack is, what the current status of the regulatory environment is, what the marketing potential of a market is, we lost. Research and keeping yourself up to date and reinventing yourself continuously, I think are part of what makes a good consultant good versus maybe not a good one.
So by way of example, so I cannot think that even 5 or 6 years ago, we would have thought about TikTok, the reach of social, and the different ways of social, just not Facebook, but the impact of reels, the impact of shorts, all these things that change all the time, and how they change the dynamics and the ability to to show return on investment on marketing, for example. A small example.
100%. 100%. I mean, you take that into the more operational things. Just look at the change in the payments landscapes around the jurisdictions in Africa. You know, if you had told us 10 years ago what mobile money would actually mean in half, 3/4 of the markets, I wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe Nitesh and then AI as well. Sorry, Jane.
Okay,
and I say maybe a discussion around the impact of AI, where the right application of AI in your research is beneficial, but it's definitely not a solution to any question. Sorry, Jay, we missed it there.
I believe you've brought in the sorry. You've brought in the point of technology, which was actually our next question, whereby we are trying to look at how technology can influence the consulting ecosystem. Nitesh, what do you think? How is technology adoption influencing consulting practices and business strategies in Africa?
Look, I think it's changed the landscape significantly for us. Firstly, it's made available to us to make enhanced data analytics and decision-making processes through very high data-driven insights, because we can manage a lot more. The advanced data analytic tools that are available to us allows us to provide more accurate and data-driven insights to our clients, firstly. Secondly, predictive analytical tools will enable us to forecast and look out for potential risks and look out and forecast customer behavior, which will allow us to proactively plan how we operate. I think the communication landscape has changed so much that digital communication tools with our clients and from our clients to their clients and their players has changed the landscape a lot. The fact that we're on this sort of live stream brings me to my next point, which is the virtual collaboration tools that we have at our hands. So all of these platforms like Monday and Slack and just even WhatsApp and being able to collaborate online with our clients across the world, where we can track project progress, we can track and share documents, we can work together in real time, makes a massive difference. It allows us to do remote consulting, which is great. We don't necessarily have to be on the ground, although I think it is critical to be on the ground to understand the cultural diversity of these markets that you're working in, but we can achieve a lot more through remote consulting. E-learning platforms allow us to upskill ourselves and to upskill clients much easier with the use of many of these new platforms. So we can actually conduct training in a virtual world where customers are much more, our skills are much more available to them. And then, there's the elements around automation, just allowing us to streamline repetitive tasks that we do for clients along the way. There's project management software that allows us to all be on the same page at the same time. The level of technological advances allows us really to be able to deliver one person can now do the work of three. And sometimes that's what's expected of us as consultants. We're not beholden to physical infrastructure, so cloud computing really helps our scenario. Cloud storage really helps the way we operate. The adoption of agile methodologies allows us to reduce cost, increase operational efficiencies. It just goes on and on, and then you bring in everything around AI and all the benefits that every one of the aspects that I spoke about so far, be it project management, communication, training, can all be then sliced with an AI, can be viewed through an AI perspective. And at that point, everything then becomes exponentially easier and exponentially bigger. And at that, this is where consultants can really shine.
Nitesh, I just want to maybe debate with you one or two points that you brought up there. One of the things that you said was the amount of remote work we can do, and I agree with you. The collaboration tools are fantastic.
Yeah.
But in my experience, and I'm sure you wouldn't disagree with me, there has to be that in-country, in-person, face-to-face interaction and communication with the client, with the client's teams. Otherwise, in my view, you get to a place where you can deliver 80, 90% of the work, but you don't get the soul of what you're trying to communicate into it. You're not building, you're not forming teams. You're literally providing admin services. I'm not admin services. That's not what I'm looking for. But you aren't building a cohesion and communicating a vision, if that's your role. A case study for me.
I agree that you've got to be on the ground.
A case study for me on that is I built a online casino for a European entity during COVID from my dining room table. I could not travel. I employed the teams, I built the technologies, we built the structures, we did everything remotely. And if I had to say, am I happy that's the best work I've ever done? I'm probably 80% happy. I needed to be there in person. Unfortunately,
yeah, I don't think you'll find too much argument from me on that point. It is critical that you are on the ground. It is critical that you understand, because every company has a soul. Every company has a it's a living, breathing thing, and you've got to understand what that living, breathing thing is if you want it to operate at its peak.
Just moving further on, I'm just looking at Mark's comment here. Can we upload our knowledge to an AI chatbot? I laugh, but AI and that aspect of it is a really, really useful thing. I think in processing volumes of information and asking questions, the problem comes in is that I think in the current levels of the models that are out there, it's very, very, very easy to be misled by them. I admit every now and then I'll ask the ChatGPT a question, or I'll feed it some insights and ask for output on it. But you have to have the ability and experience and the knowledge to understand if what you're reading is valid or not. And I don't believe we're quite there on that level of knowledge to impart us into a chatbot just quite yet. Where I'm more concerned is probably from an operational level. If I was a call center agent right now, I'd be very, very worried what the future was holding for me. I'd be looking to steal myself out of that role. Because I think the AI tech is getting close to a point you're not going to need a call center of people sitting very, very soon.
But Martin, let me just quickly then say this as well about the technologies, that it needs to be applicable. The type of technology that you apply in an operation needs to be a fit for that region, that operation. I see part of the issue that we have is we bring in technology from all over, saying it is the fanciest Ferrari, it's the fanciest piece of tech that will blow everybody out the water, with absolutely no understanding of what is required in that region, that specific. So things like a big fat platform with the biggest bells and whistles, but absolutely crawls on a mobile because there was no mobile first thinking to it. No, or Africa development and understanding what connectivity means in Africa and the different regions. Probably it could work wonderful in some parts of Africa, where it will be an absolute dismal failure elsewhere. And it's that application of technology and knowing what fits in that region that's very important for me. I think that's
Absolutely.
part of our duty is to research and to get down to apply the right piece of puzzle to build out that picture.
Absolutely, but that comes with skill, experience, and the ability, and the actual act of having worked with multiple platforms in multiple jurisdictions and understanding. Yes, we can put a Ferrari, a European Ferrari on South Africa roads, right? Is that really going to do the job in Nigeria or in Cameroon or in Angola? Maybe not. Maybe we're looking for the 4x4 instead, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and somebody's loving the discussion. Mark Samlan, he's having some good comments about AI and the chat that we have had about just applying technology as consultants. And for sure, I can be able to see that then as a consultant, if you are not updated with the latest trends and upcoming with the technology, then you may not be in a position to deliver on some of these projects. But then the question could become, if then the technology is simplifying most of the tasks for even those who want to invest in this continent, and if they need even the analytical data or statistics about the continent, they can easily get it through applying technology. Then why is it important then to have a consultant to come in?
Well, remember, for me, engaging with local consultants, people that have expertise in the local market, people that understand what the regulations, the nuances of the regulations are, the advocacy around regulations, people that understand the culture, that have established networks in those countries or those regions, that bring down the cost of the different tasks or the different solutions that need to be solved, faster response times, having a look at their reputation and accountability, and even so far as mine when I do engage with the local consultant. These are the items that I think makes it worthwhile for me to then make sure that I know who's best in class in all those different aspects when I enter into a new region where I probably have never spent time, but I've learned that by immersion, I can have a look at these elements and then find the best team members around me to make a success in the new territory or when dealing with local consultants. What it also does, it allows me to, where I have the ability to share knowledge or to show new ways or to share experiences in other operations that I've had, and to impart that and share that for the growth of somebody local, and that means growth for them and probably in other areas, or whether they want to move into consultancy in full. So that's how I go about it, and trying to train up and share and be helpful where I can. It comes back.
Yeah, I think
actually,
Gali,
you answered our next question. Yeah, Nitesh, come in.
I think Gali states it well when he says, clients only know what they know. You can give them the top of the line product. You can put forward all the best platforms and all the best technology, but they're only able to use it to the extent of their knowledge, number one, and to the extent of you could get the American or the European supplier of the software to come and install it, but does it work for you? Does it work for your country? Does it work for your people? Does it work for your clients? These are things that I think all too often a lot of companies end up with a best of breed product for another industry.
Yeah,
and that's
but then Nitesh, maybe before I give Martin a chance to also have a contribution on the same, the point from Gali that clients only know what they know, raises several questions for consultants because, again, in his next comment, I will read it here. As consultants, we are responsible to answer the unknowns and steer projects on course and upskill or educate clients to avoid mistakes. Now, my worry is that there are some clients who might not be willing to give you a chance to do it your way. So how do you handle such a scenario as a consultant? Because if a client only knows what they know, how do you convince them that what you know is what it ought to be? Martin?
No. Go for it,
Wow,
Martin.
that's a great question. And I think that really depends on the fit and the fit that you have with the engagement. One of the things, if you're engaging us at good money to hear our opinion and to guide you in a way, you either need to be listening to us or not. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything. It's not a dictatorship, all right? We are trying to, and at least in my own personal working style, I'm trying to persuade you that my way is possibly more of a correct way than yours. Now, if you can't do that with a client and they're not listening to you, just as it's time to onboard a client, there comes a time when it's time to outboard them as well. And let them find maybe a better fit that is more geared to what they want. Having said that, getting back to my earlier point, one of the reasons you bring us in is because we have a vast array of experience in a vast number of different companies. We've seen it done all ways, and you're paying for our opinion at the end of the day.
Good. Somebody want to add a point on that?
Yeah, Jeremiah, I think given where we've come from and given a lot of these businesses that we consult to, and even the guys who are in the chat or listening into this, whether it's a client or a board or your shareholders or your investors, it's incumbent on you to make the case for the technology. If they don't know it and they're not going ahead with your plans, I think what you've got to do is really put forward the benefits of this and what's the downside if they don't go with it. And as a consultant, oftentimes that's as much as you can do. Like Martin says, as often as it's time to onboard a client, you've got to, offboard them. And sometimes maybe you don't have to offboard them, but you've got to put it on record that this is why I say this and these are the reasons. If you're wanting to go another route, that's fine, but understand that these are the risks. Whether you're a consultant, whether you're an MD or a CEO, you've got that. You've always got somebody to answer to, right? Whether it's your shareholders or your board or your client. And the best you can do then is educate. And if you can't educate, then you've got to go on record.
Fantastic. And actually, the next question was already answered in part by Cameron about localization and ensuring that you are engaging local consultants. And I'm believing that everybody here today must be a local consultant because we are talking about Africa and we are all Africans. So can you shed more light on this and tell us why it is important to engage local consultants? Because some companies may opt to field their global consultants and engage them in launching or expanding their operations in Africa. Why is it very, very important for you to work with locals? And which are some of the factors you should consider when you're working with local consultants? Nitesh? And then I think anybody who has a point on that can also contribute.
I'll start with the softer things rather than the things that are just kind of obvious to a lot of us, right? I think supporting local economies is important. Okay, by engaging local consultants, you contribute to support job creation and economic development. By doing the same, you're creating there's sustainable development in that space. Your risk management is better because your local consultants understand local risk. In the event of a crisis, you have access to a local consultant. They can respond faster. You get a long-term commitment from a local consultant, where you can have continued engagement and long-term support of that client. There's an element of local credibility that local consultants will have with suppliers of software, payment systems, regulators, that enhanced credibility and trust will help you cross hurdles much faster. And at the end of the day, often there's a level of cost effectiveness. Local resources, local vendors, local consultants can be much more cost effective than international consultants or consultants from the northern hemispheres, let's put it that way. I think it eliminates a lot of travel expenses, and it allows for more flexible engagement terms. Not to say that we sell ourselves short. I don't think Cameron, myself, or Martin are known to be cheap in any way, shape, or form, but I still think that there's an element of cost effectiveness that comes in with taking on somebody from outside.
I like the word cost effective rather than cheap.
Absolutely.
Nitesh. So for me, it's a different story. Okay, one of the things, and especially when I move into a new jurisdiction, there was the first time I was in Nigeria, there was the first time I was in Cameroon, right? One of the, just focusing on the basics that you need. You can read the translation of the act all you want, but if you're not engaged with a good local lawyer, okay, in the jurisdiction, who has got that closeness and the relationships with the regulator and the understanding of the board, you're not going to get very far in that. And that's normally one of the things I look for when I'm working in. So from a legal point of view, I want someone local that actually understands. All right. And then obviously my experience is I bounce against him best practices. Is this applicable? Is that applicable? Are we unresponsible? Whatever the thing is, it helps get my understanding right quicker. And that guy's probably in a better position to impact change with the board than I am. That's on the one level. On a marketing aspect, that's a different level. We've all got the base marketing tools. Yes, we're all going to go SEO, we're all going to go on social, we're all going to do all the things that we do. But unless you're living in a country for an extended time, you don't actually get that heartbeat of it. Now, in my personal practice, I don't like outsourced marketing, right? I want you to build as an operation your marketing team in-house. I believe that is one of the core things that you have to own as an operator, right? Just a belief. But if you've been asked to put the initial plans together, you have to have local knowledge. You've got to have someone that sees the billboard on the road, that goes and places his bet at the kiosk. If you're not understanding that and you're not understanding the flow of that, best you find yourself someone that does. And that someone is living in the territory at this moment.
Yeah, thanks for that. I would like to remind our audience that we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and you can, of course, share your questions. At the moment you comment on YouTube or LinkedIn, we are going to have your comment shared or your question shared with the panelists so that they can have an input. Cameron, my next question, I would like you to shed more light on this. We've seen several betting companies closing down in Africa, and I don't want to mention names, I don't want to mention countries, but we have seen this happening recently quite a lot. Can you relate this to the companies not engaging the right consultants, or is a combination of several factors that lead to these businesses shutting down? And what advice will you give to those who are aspiring to open their businesses so that they don't come in, spend time here for 1 year and then they close down?
So that's how long is a piece of string, because a business is made up of many cogs, like I said before, and the basics needs to be in place. It could be down to the wrong consultant, could be down to financial implications, the regulatory environment, could be as simple as selecting the wrong platform for the region, not paying attention to the right marketing. So all of these matter, and that what you need to do is understand what the territory looks like, what the landscape and the possibility of earnings would be, and as an operation, what your vision for that would be, knowing that you in for a longer engagement than just a year, making sure that you've got the right plans, right financials, right everything set up to give you the best possible route to success. So when you have that in place, and when you have the right resources, whether it is in human resources or technology resources, financial resources, it's probably because of an engagement and having ears out and listening more than it is then dictating and talking. And that allows you to gain more insight and build a better operation, a stronger operation with more pillars and more possibility for success.
In fairness,
In fairness,
some of our work as consultants is helping management to decide when to pull the plug,
yes,
and
absolutely.
actually presiding over that. All right. Sometimes it's out of your control. Sometimes it's market conditions. You want to play with tax rates, and you don't want to put in a stable regulatory environment in a market. There are companies that just don't have the risk appetite to deal with that, and they will do what they need to exit. And part of the work we do is enable and assist with that. It's not always just a business growth, right? We help you make the right decisions.
Absolutely. So what I was getting to is, once you've got your opportunities for success, and it does not come to fruition, it is like in Africa, like anywhere in the world, there is a life cycle for operations where there comes a closure time. And the closure of operation is not as simple as closing the door and there it goes. There's a few elements to it that where we assist, specifically with the operations that we've needed to exit, making sure that there's a few aspects like reputational management, making sure that you exit in a responsible, socially responsible manner, making sure you look after the talent that you've got in that territory. So all of it's very specific, and I understand what you're saying, Martin, and I agree with that.
Fantastic. Good point there, Cameron. I think we have 10 minutes, and then we will all go and keep checking the results of the election that is currently happening in South Africa. I believe they are streaming the results, and we are wishing our brothers and sisters in South Africa a very successful election. And today we have a surprise. Actually, I was surprised that the three panelists are all from South Africa. So congratulations to South Africa, and a cheers to that. So my next question, I think Nitesh, you can help us to unravel this. I think one of the biggest worries of an investor or somebody who wants to open a business here is, number one, whenever they are engaging a consultant, is how can they trust this person to handle the project, to handle the money that is going to come with it, because as a consultant, you must be trusted with all the resources that the business has at its disposal. So, and this might be a reason why somebody will be like, let me engage a consultant that we have been using in Europe instead of going to hire somebody who we don't know. So how can we help these businesses to ensure that they are engaging people they can trust on this continent? Because trust is, I think, one of the top factors that they usually consider before making a decision on who to engage as a consultant. So what do you have to say about this, Nitesh?
I come back to the point somebody raised earlier on. This is a small industry. It's an industry that you are at max 2 degrees of separation from somebody else in the industry. If I don't know you, I know somebody that knows you. And I think the easiest thing for you to do is have that conversation with other people. LinkedIn is a fantastic tool to see who your mutual contacts are. Some of the operations that you've done work at in the past would have had some overlap with people in the market. And it's something that I think we overlook a lot of the time. As somebody who owns an operation, or somebody who's an operator that wants to engage with a consultant, sometimes you've just got to have that conversation with the consultant. You've got to sit them down and ask the questions that you need answered. You'll find oftentimes that you will find the fit. Somebody may be technologically or technically proficient, but do you have a personality fit? Do you have a culture fit? Because those are as important. I have to say on that previous point, and a little bit about this point, I have spent a lot of time in the last 2 years turning clients either away because there wasn't a fit between us from a culture point of view, and also turning people away who just had the wrong idea about Africa. And sadly, I've ditched a lot of business, but I've made the choice that I want to work with people that I want to work with. I want to work with people that I like, people that I can respect, people that I can learn from. And similarly, I don't want to bring any business into South Africa or into Africa that's coming in with a mindset that we know better and we'll show you how it's done. Unless there's this iterative back and forth. And the only way you'll find out if you have that fit is to talk to the consultant. They may not be as experienced as one of us, or one of the 3 people on this table, or even the guys in the chat, because I can see some very, very experienced people that are following this conversation. But that's okay. Get somebody who you can work with, get somebody who fits. The other critical point that I want to raise is that you need to understand what you're trying to achieve. Okay? There are people, even the 3 of us at this table, for as long as we've been in this game, we come with a very different set of skills. And our backgrounds, unfortunately, lead us in a certain path in terms of how we consult and who we consult to. So as an operator, you need to know, you need to understand what you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to achieve operational efficiency, get somebody who understands that. If you're trying to get somebody who understands marketing, get a consultant who's strong in that space. There's no one size fits all, unfortunately. As senior as the roles that we've all been in, and as we've all run operations, we've run big multi-million-dollar operations, you will find that I tend to lean in a certain direction, as does Cam, as does Martin. And you need to understand what you're trying to achieve before you go and get out there to get a consultant.
Bro, spot on.
Absolutely.
We have said it better.
Yeah, very true, very true.
That's
There is a question from Kaluka. Yeah, for sure. So there is a question from one Kaluka Wanjala on LinkedIn, and he's asking, as a consultant, how do you handle new technologies that you may not have so much experience with, but have seen positive outcomes in other markets? Who will take that?
I'll venture there. Part of the research is experimentation, and experimentation means having the ability to test theories against possible new technologies, new ways of interacting, and then being able to measure that in a way that makes sense to the business. So understanding whether that technology is a fit, is it going to have an impact, recognizing it early, and then running the tests with experiments that you then can replicate on a larger scale, knowing that what you are trying to measure, what change you're trying to affect. And And then sometimes
Good.
for the market, it's probably best to leave it for adoption, let it be adopted, and then go and have a run at it again. I've seen so many things being adopted early, having a run at, and failing and saying, well, there's absolutely no value in this, only to come down 18 months when there's been a large adoption in the life cycle of the product, and it then has success. So recognizing that as well as the right time, the right fit.
Just to add to that and to go back to your earlier point, it's research, right? There's a reason that a number of us are at 10 gaming shows a year, looking at technology, looking and understanding what is best of breed at the moment. Guess what? What's best of breed today is not what was best of breed 2 years ago. And our role as consultants is probably one of our duties to ourselves and to our clients is to be up to date on these things. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we are having technical problem from Martin's side.
No, I'm here.
Nope, we're happy.
I think we're having problems from Jeremiah's side.
I think we're having problems from Jeremiah's side, yeah.
Seems.
Yeah, cool.
While we wait on Jeremiah to finish up or to reconnect, I think it was insightful in breaking it down, all the elements that we discussed today as local consultants and how we get things together. But I think it's only scratches the surface. I think we can be talking for 2-3 hours nonstop on value and how we derive value and how we can impart value to others around us. How partnerships, work agreements, collaboration agreements mean the world in the space that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
He seems to be struggling to connect, and we seem to be running out of time. So, I think the last question that we were posed, I don't know if we got time to take anything from the people that are watching the stream. If there's any questions, now would be the time to ask them. But I think in wrapping up, guys, to help Jeremiah along here, one of the questions was, what advice to give to people like that question there? I want to start out, where should I begin, right? So I think, let me kick off and you guys can add to this. I think it's important that you choose your niche, that you understand what you're good at, that you try and focus in that area first. I think it's important to build a credible network in the industry. You've got to develop a level of industry expertise. I think understanding your markets or understanding the spaces in which you work with are critical. You've got to build a personal brand. You've got to build a brand that can stand up to scrutiny. This industry is too small to make enemies. It's too small to burn bridges. And you really got to work your personal brand. You've got to leverage technology. And I think we spoke about research and we spoke about continuous learning and growth. But the one mistake I made and the one piece of advice that I would give as a consultant out there, and it's a mistake I made in my first consulting practice, is you've got to dedicate downtime, which is time that nobody's going to pay for, okay? 20% of your time that will go towards research, building your network, and most importantly, finding clients, okay? My biggest mistake on my first consultancy was not developing enough of a pipeline of clients. So from a consultant's point of view, you've got to put in the time into developing that pipeline. And I think the important question to ask, you have to talk to other consultants, and as much as you have to ask them about what works in their practice, I think a more important question is to ask them what not to do and what have they learned from their practices.
Yeah.
I think
Welcome back,
Jeremiah.
But still on mute.
Jeremiah, you're on mute.
No.
I think we over time anyway. I think we should probably we should probably call it a day now. I'm sure Jeremiah's stream has finished. If you can hear us, can you hear us, Jeremiah? I don't know. I don't think his technology is working, but I think we are over time, and we should probably wrap.
Great spending some time with you guys. Great having the conversation. And I thank AFRIKA for bringing us together and having the chance to have a good chat.
Yeah, thanks to the audience participation. Good to see so many good guys and friends and colleagues in the industry there. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you, Jeremiah, for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you to the other panelists. I think
thank you, and
handy to hear.
Have a great time.
Cool.